Hello and welcome to the live stream, everybody. I'm glad you're here. I can see that we've got several people on already. Thank you for joining us. I'm not going to bear the lead. I'm going to just get right to it and welcome Josh and Sandee Greenberg to the live stream. Welcome, Greenbergs. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Glad you're here. We recognize that today is I don't even know the right word for it, an auspicious day, right? It's not a day that anybody wants to commemorate or celebrate, but as of today, here in a couple hours, it will have been exactly 12 years since your daughter passed away. How are you guys feeling today?
It's been a bumpy road, but you have to power through every day. But I can't believe it doesn't feel like 12 years, but we're here and we're moving forward. And the authorities in Philadelphia better wake up because we're not going away.
I'm thankful we've been able to do this for 12 years. I don't know of anybody else that's able to carry a case, has been able to carry a case like we have for 12 years because of money and patience and living. And we know that the whole strategy of the authorities in Philadelphia was stall, 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 stall.
They just want to wear us out and deflect. And it's not pretty. Philadelphia is not looking pretty to me.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that does seem to be their strategy, right? Just to see if they can wait you guys out. What do you think it is that, I mean, it's like asking a marathon runner, what is it inside them that makes them keep going? But
You're asking
what is it?
$64 question for lack. I'm showing my age.
The more lies you tell, the more tracks you have to cover, and at some point, the house got to get cleaned.
Your question was the $64 question. Why? What? I mean, there have been instances where people have testified under oath contradicting what is the Philadelphia's criminal side is what their facts are. And yet, even with that, even with under oath saying, I would have to change this because I now know different things, he didn't change it. We wouldn't be here. We would have gotten everything done and moved on. But they will not let him do that. And it's the why.
I was thinking about Dr. Emery today. By the way, everybody who's watching, I can see your comments. Hello to all of you. Thank you for being here. If you have questions for Josh and Sandee, just put them in there and we'll answer any question you have. But Josh and Sandee, I was thinking about, specific to what you were just saying, Josh, about Dr. Emery. Dr. Emery testified under oath that that there was no vital reaction, and so for her, that particular wound that they were looking at happened post-mortem. But then just a couple of days later, the city comes out with a statement saying that Dr. Emery misspoke. It was something like that. I'm probably not quoting them directly.
It's a good. Well, we understand what you're trying to say. Why did she testify under oath with a video camera and audio about something, and then the city wants to retract it? There was also another instance where Osborne, who wrote the autopsy report, said if he knew the facts the way they were versus the way they were presented to him at an unrecorded, undocumented meeting, he would say this was a undecided or homicide. Why didn't he just do it right then, right on camera?
Isn't that part of his oath?
Well, I don't know if he has an oath, but
yeah, I wonder what that is. Let's see. What is Cynthia saying here, real quick? There are many of us behind you, Mr. and Mrs. Greenberg. Will not stop following the case until the murderer is arrested and convicted. I know who the murderer is. I'm sure you do too. That brings up, Cynthia brings up a pretty good question. You've never actually specifically said, I want a murderer to pay the price or anything like that. You've simply just said you want justice for your daughter.
Right.
What's the difference?
Let's be a little more specific today then. We want A, the conclusion to be changed to undecided or homicide. B, we want an impartial investigation. And C, we want that to be led by an impartial investigator. So we want all, I hate to use the word again, impartial things done. We want the truth, is what we want.
And with the city labeling Ellen's death a suicide and withholding all the information, that's very telling. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So they're
What are they
saying,
and concealing?
Well, let's talk about that for 1 second, one instance. There's going to be so many things. Our investigator, Tom Brennan, was speaking with a forensic teacher who teaches the police how to investigate things. And somehow she was sent pictures of Ellen's body from autopsy. And Tom's talking about stuff, and she says to Tom, "This is 3 months after the case is closed and decided to be a suicide." She says, "This is not a suicide. This is a homicide." I mean, and how did she get the pictures 3 months late after the case is closed? Who sent them? What did they send them for? And what happened with her conclusion when she sent it back, the pictures back with her conclusion? Nothing changed.
yeah, that is something that's interesting. Where okay, in the Commonwealth, it's actually pretty specific to Pennsylvania. Most other states don't do this, but if a case is closed in most other states, the exemption of law enforcement records goes away. But in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the exemption never expires, right? So, Sandee, what you just said is they're saying that Ellen did this to herself, but then they're saying, and we have evidence about it, but you can't see it. We're going to hold it right here. You can't see it, right? But there's nothing that prohibits them from releasing that information. The right to know law doesn't make that prohibition. It just makes the exemption if they want to, I guess, use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are a number of cases, as you're well aware, Gavin, and those records will be subpoenaed. Something I'm interested in, aside from Ellen being a what I'm going to call a homicide victim, she was an abused woman, excuse me. She had various bruises on her body, which they noted, and they never did an investigation about. Does that mean even if somebody is abused and there's an abuser out there, we don't bother because the person's passed away? We don't do an investigation. That means there's an abuser someplace out there, doesn't it?
Yeah. So for my viewers, if you guys want to go over to my website, gavinfish.com, go to the Ellen Greenberg case page, and you can see. I'm not gonna show them here, but you can see basically their 3D renderings based on the autopsy photos that actually show clear as day that Ellen had bruises all over her body. And then Dr. Osborne did note in the autopsy that there were bruises in various stages of resolution.
But they don't do anything about it.
Right. But now, did you guys have any indication that Ellen was receiving these blows that caused these bruises? Was there any indication that you would have seen?
In fact, if you know something about abuse, the abused person takes the position that she is wrong and who's abusing her is right, and that's why she's being abused. This is the way I understand it. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but that's what I've learned in these past 12 years. I may be wrong, and if somebody wants to correct me, that's fine. But that's what I understand. And the stronger the abuser speaks up for who's abusing her, that means that's the abuser. It's not just saying he's my friend. He's my best friend. I love him dearly. He does everything for me. I can't live without him. That's the abuser. That's the way I understand it anyway.
So Ellen, again, there will be people watching this that don't know the fine particulars of the case. They haven't watched all the coverage. And you guys have had coverage all over the place. You've done a very good job of keeping the case front and center in people's lives who are interested in this sort of thing. But Ellen was seeing a psychiatrist, I think at your request. And actually, Sandee, I think you even helped her find the psychiatrist, right?
Clinicians.
We made a deal with Ellen. Ellen wanted to come home to Harrisburg, and we couldn't understand it. and I wanted two things. We wanted somebody to tell us what had happened that was not right about our daughter, because we knew that something was not right, and I wanted to preserve the job. I mean, it may sound trite to everybody now, but going back with what the knowledge we had, which was not very much, that's the way I was thinking. Help my daughter. If we can preserve the job and she doesn't have to leave it, how's she gonna get another job?
Yeah. So, I mean, these are just pretty standard parental concerns, right? That talking with your child about decisions that they're making, as they're, and Ellen was 27, but, she's really kind of stretching her wings still. She's graduated. She's got a good job. I've got a 22-year-old daughter now, Kimberly and I do. And so I'm starting to feel, even I'm 47. My parents still feel that same way about me, right? They're always
We understand
concerned.
that, Gavin. We know you're a little weak. No, okay. No.
I'm an old guy, and my parents have plenty to be concerned about. But I mean, that never goes away, right? Even at 27, she wants to come home. You guys sit down and
Right.
by phone, and you're reasoning with her, thinking this through, right?
We had no understanding. We had no reason to believe there was a problem. Basically, we thought it was, she was happy. She was in love. We may have had our own reservations or not had reservations about the fiance, which I'm sure every father will have. But she was happy, and that's what I wanted. I want my daughter to be happy and have a long, healthy, happy life, hopefully with this one mate like I've been fortunate to have. And that's what I wanted. And she was happy.
Until she wasn't, right? Did it just kind of come out of the blue?
I thought, I was not familiar with the signs of domestic abuse
We still weren't.
and still don't know enough about it. I didn't ever think that was a possibility. I mean, I always told her, to don't let anyone hurt you, touch you, tell us if there's a problem. I would tell her, when the babysitter came that, she would come after we got home. She always, we had good communication. So I just didn't
We never suspected anything.
suspect it.
We never had a clue. We never suspected anything. There was no reason to, we thought.
Yeah.
I tell all my friends who have children, male or female, tell them if somebody hurts them, they should come to you. That's what I do all the time now. We were not fortunate in having a daughter possibly because of that. It's one of those hindsight's 2020 and would have, should have, could have, could have. We knew nothing about it.
And I think beyond the psychological part of it, where abuse victims, like you just taught us, Josh, like abuse victims aren't forthcoming about that sort of thing. But also, I don't think kids ever really understand how much their parents understand and love them. Like, I don't think that you get that especially as a young person, and especially as somebody who's not a parent, right? As much as you want your children to trust you and know that you've got their back, it does always seem like they don't necessarily believe that. They don't understand that you understand.
It took 21 years for Ellen to write to me, Daddy, you and I don't always agree, but you're usually right. 21 years.
You're lucky you got that at all.
I know. I saved it, by the way. I have it.
Hey, here's a question from a viewer. Let me find out what it was here. Right here. My condolences to the Greenbergs. My question to them is whether the media has largely ignored them in their quest for truth, or do they give a reason why they won't cover Ellen's case? What do you guys think about that?
Well,
I don't feel ignored by the media. I think they've been supportive, but they can always be more supportive.
we've learned, for instance, TV will not do anything until there's a conclusion, possibly because of the legal way we are. As for the social media, I think they've done great. Maybe not 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, but we've covered this case for 12 years and it's still getting coverage. That's why we're here. And there are other people have spoken to other media we've spoken to today. So unfortunately, Gavin, you're not exclusive,
Of
and he
course.
doesn't mind that. What?
Of course not. Yeah.
But you have something others don't have, live people. And so we feel the media has done right by us. Again, maybe not 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, but whenever something happens, the media has been there.
And I
Uh,
feel that the justice system has not done right by us.
well, that's an issue. The justice system is the slowest moving thing I've ever come across. So
It's
right now,
infuriating.
sitting here today, there's probably nothing happening that is worthy of reporting except talking to us. The DA is not talking. The police aren't talking. Any of the officials involved are not talking. The only thing I want to say one thing. We just hit 150,000 people online at change.org. And
On the petition.
change.org, I'm sorry?
On the petition.
Yeah, on the petition to open the case. And well, I'll give you two things. Number one, change.org said 150,000 puts us at almost the top of the whole thing. The other thing is when this started, I know that many of your husbands and wives, you don't always agree. And I said to Sandee, we'll be lucky if 1,000 people who knew Ellen do anything. Sitting here, I just came up with 150,000. And if you really look at everything, all the podcasts, all the TV shows, all the things that have been done by the media with very little solicitation on us. The only thing that had a major solicitation was one of the times way back when I wanted to be on a certain daytime TV show with an MC. But we have not had a PR firm do anything for us, so we don't know what we're doing. Even today, we don't know what we're doing. Gavin could lead us down a dirty road here. People, help us. But we don't know. The media has been more than kind, and I appreciate why you would think 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But I've given up on that. Nobody cares about anything 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Yes, people think about Ellen and Sandee and I, and whatever they think, that's great, and I appreciate it immensely. And a day like today, people recognizing a special or unique day, I appreciate that. But
I just never thought that after 12 years we would still be
we don't know. We're clueless.
waiting for Philadelphia
We're a
to do
conclusion.
the right thing.
We never expected. They didn't expect us to be here in 12 years either. I'll bet on that. There are
Yeah.
a lot of officials in Philadelphia who are not happy.
So I think you guys are being pretty gracious to the media in general. And I think you're right. For the most part, the media has treated you really well. There is one thing that has bothered me, though, with the local Philadelphia media, and nobody in particular, but when anything happens in the case and the local Philadelphia media will do one of their 30-second or 1-minute updates, they always show old footage from back in 2011 of like CSIs and the medical examiner vans and all that stuff. And every time I see that, I go, you guys weren't even there. Like those guys weren't even there that night. So showing I guess the visual showing that the police took this serious and investigated from the very beginning is a complete fabrication. It's completely wrong. All of that stuff happened 2 days later after the scene had been cleaned, after items had been taken out of the
They
apartment.
had to get a search warrant to come back into the apartment
Yes.
to do an investigation, which I thought, in some respects, unfortunately, I'm a little perverse in some ways. I thought that was humorous, that they had to get a search warrant to do an investigation.
Yeah, you think the probable cause.
Done the right way the first time.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're the police, aren't they? Don't they have certain rights and privileges or something?
You
to
would
the
think
case?
that the probable cause of a dead woman in an apartment would automatically have that power to go in. But by that point, they had already told the apartment building, go ahead and clean it up.
Yeah,
And
well, it got worse than that.
oh, well, it's much worse than that. Sure, yeah. Laptops,
The
phones were
manager of
taken.
the building, Melissa Ware, called up that this apartment is a mess. And they instructed her who to call to sanitize the apartment. And these people that came in were professionals who sanitize crime scenes or apartments like this.
Yeah.
That apartment was sanitized before the investigation even started. And it was paid for by some private people who Had a vested interest, maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I know that you don't want to point any fingers or anything like that, but that was paid for by the family of the other party living in that apartment.
I didn't say that, did I?
I said, yeah, okay. Let's speaking of the other party, and you guys don't have to answer any questions that come up here, but here's one. Kai, who is a longtime viewer of mine, asked, do you believe this case is being silenced due to the fiance's connections?
I
Do you
have
have any
no
thoughts on
comment.
that?
I'll make a comment. I think it's a possibility, but I have no idea to say that. Maybe. We don't know the why. That's the big question that haunts us. Why? Why? Is this because of a family connection, a wealthy family connection? Is this because the police screwed up and they don't want to admit they screwed up? Is this because of some other reason? I have no idea. We don't know the why, and that's like it's like punching an invisible man almost. You don't know where to throw the punches, but we don't know the why.
Now, you've told the story in the past of at Ellen's memorial. I think that was when the news that this is a homicide had made it to you, right? Up until that point, I think that you were going on the assumption that for some reason your daughter had done this to herself. You're dealing with that, right? Probably
Never thought that. We
never
just
believed it. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put it this way. Sandee never believed it. I didn't believe it, but I grew up believing the police. The police, I grew up, are there to protect us, to help us, to et cetera, et cetera. The policeman on the corner is the friendly policeman. He's not somebody trying to cover up my daughter's murder. He's not somebody taking bribes. He's not somebody doing other things that are not it. But, Ellen was different. I didn't know what was going on. And I had to somehow hold some, in my mind, he's an authority. He knows more than I do.
But yet the authorities really were not honest with us. It took us months and months and months to put together what happened. I still am not completely clear. I have a pretty good idea, but they really didn't help us at all.
They never called us.
I
They
mean,
never
if
told
it was
us.
one of their children,
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask about that part, but at the memorial service, when the story is, Josh, that you said at the memorial service out loud that Ellen was murdered.
Yes.
What was that like when you made that pronouncement?
you could hear a pin drop.
Silence. And I went through this thing about thinking about Ellen. Just close your eyes and just think, and that's Ellen. We're all thinking about her, and that's what's there of her. Those memories, and those are important. That's her spirit. And Ellen was a very influential in some ways person.
How so?
How
so?
Today,
Many younger children's parents thought we did a pretty good job with her. Now I'm reluctant to say anything to anybody about a parent about raising a child, but Ellen was considered to some degree a model child.
I want to point out that on Justice for Ellen, there were a lot of comments made, and 2 were made by her former students
Today.
who I know that I had met when I was in her classroom, because this is 12 years later and they were in first grade at the time. And they're following the case.
These kids are graduating high school now.
Right.
Yep.
What'd they say?
Rest in peace, Miss Greenberg. And Ellen Greenberg, or Miss Greenberg, was my first grade teacher, something along those lines. You can go back and look it up. And I was like, if that isn't the most touching thing, that these children know that their first grade teacher was brutally murdered in Philadelphia. And that's part of their legacy.
We had a lot of memorial quotes from children and parents that Ellen was involved with in school. Ellen, that day of that storm, had called all the parents, to the best of our knowledge, to make sure the children got home. How many teachers did that?
Yeah, probably none.
Well, I wouldn't go that
or a
far.
few. Yeah,
But,
not all.
but she really set an
That's
example.
showing responsibility.
I know what I want to say.
Yeah.
She set an example of a teenager and then an adult for other children and their parents to model. Not that we were such great parents. We did what we could, but she took the ball and carried it, so to speak.
Yeah.
The
So,
other
oh, go ahead.
the other thing I've been thinking about this a lot. When parents have a child or children, you raise your children to be the best version of themselves. Okay?
Mhm.
Which is what we did. We did our best. We poured everything we could into it. Then the Philadelphia establishment tells us our daughter committed suicide, and they expect us to press the delete button, like, poof. That's not the case.
Well, unfortunately, we sought more answers. We didn't know. We didn't know where the answers were going to lead us when we started this.
I cut you guys off earlier. You were about to talk about what I guess the experience was with law enforcement once Ellen had died. I mean, nobody
None.
reached out? Nobody did anything?
None.
I think they were disgraceful. The longer this goes on, and to watch their behavior, it's a disgrace to their profession.
The criminal justice system in Philadelphia is rotten, as far as I'm concerned.
Here's a question. Are the Philly local media very tied up politically? Or do you think that the local media has been fair? What do you think?
I think they're fair.
To some degree, but they also have to maintain their context and jobs. Everyone has
Right.
to maintain. What happens? God forbid we're wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. They gotta cover their ass. They can't. Excuse my French. They can't be totally 100%. But as in general, we have to say the media has made it so that we're here 12 years later. We have no experience. You're talking about. We're fortunate that some friends put together a website. Justice for Ellen. We hired a firm to do PR for us, and I fired them within 3 weeks because they didn't change anything we already had.
Mm.
And you okay?
Yeah.
You okay? And the only one I pressed was that TV talk show on the day that I wanted to be on. But they have been there. Nancy Grace has been there. What was the one that had the murders?
Accident, murder, suicide on Oxygen.
Oxygen has
Channel.
been there. The producer, in fact, sent us an email yesterday. You've been there. You podcasters have all been there.
The entire press corps is following this case. So wake up, Philadelphia.
I mean, we were on the cover of Le Figaro, which is the French national newspaper. The same thing in England. Go look on YouTube under Ellen Greenberg and see what you see.
Yeah,
Millions have seen these cases.
There's a lot. Here's a question.
Gavin has really been instrumental, though.
Yes.
Gavin is good at finding evidence and being more of how should I put it, a rock, not just giving opinions. He gives an opinion, even if he has to break down the door in his house.
I still have a broken door in this office right now.
But Gavin, Mr. Fish, you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk.
Well, thank you for
Like I
saying
said,
that.
you broke down a door in your house if you had to. And
I appreciate you saying that.
You made your wife reenact a wound that she was going to be killed, right?
I didn't make her. I asked her if she would, and she said absolutely. And by the way, that was a huge ask.
I hear my phone's ringing. I think she's disputing that.
My wife does not like attention at all, and she was. I'm going to give her credit for this. When I asked her that, she said, "Yeah, let's do it right now." She did it just like that.
It's not her usual response.
That's not what I expected at all. Okay. Here's a question. Was Ellen's fiance and his family at the memorial service?
Yes.
They were present, but they arrived back at my mother's home very, very late. You don't get that lost in Harrisburg.
What Sandee's referring to, after the service, you start sitting what's called Shiva in the Jewish religion. and people come over to your house and they, comfort you and they whatever. It took them an hour to take a 5-minute ride. We don't know what they were doing. I'm not. It's just point of information. I'm not going to draw any conclusions.
Is it
Just
atypical though? I mean, is that normal?
what
No.
to take an hour?
Yeah.
No, unless they were breaking up in the car and whatever. I don't know.
Mm.
The only other thing that I can tell you was Sandee and I, the fiance's mother and father, were sitting in a room, and
After everyone left
and
that day.
and I got hammered even by my wife because I told him in these type of things, the police look at who she knows first and work the way peripheral. And I was just trying to prepare for what I thought would be a possible. The police might call him. He was a fiance. He was living with her. He had access to the door, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And his mother hammered me, and my wife hammered me. I don't think the father said anything. And I was just trying to be helpful because I watched Perry Mason as a kid, if anybody's listening. I read mystery novels. The first person they talk to is somebody who knows the victim.
Yeah, it's usually the significant other, right?
Yeah.
So you were trying to prepare him for that. So
Yes.
in your mind at that time, was it even in the realm of possibility that he would be a suspect beyond just the fact that they were significant others? He was the significant other?
I think it was a very strong possibility because he was a significant other living with her in supposedly a locked apartment that he would be a suspect number one. That's all. And then anybody else that was living next door or whatever, or had access to the apartment or access to her, would also be a suspect. And that's how they work it.
So you
They work.
weren't making accusations. You were just like, hey, I'm going to prepare you
I
for
was trying to
something.
be helpful. I was preparing him for what I thought was going to happen, as if he was my son, for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
This is, Gavin, I mean, anybody out there wants to dispute what I'm saying, go ahead. But that's how it works. You're usually, especially if you're in a locked apartment in your own apartment, you're going to be murdered by somebody who knows you. If you're out on the street corner at 1 o'clock in the morning, there's more people around that you don't know you who can hurt you. So don't go out after 12. Nothing good happens after 12 o'clock.
This is true. I
As the father.
say that to my daughters all the time. Let's see. Cynthia's asking, who has the DNA and other things from the crime scene, Philly or Chester County?
We don't
Good
know.
question.
We don't know.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember. There was DNA taken. I'm trying to think of reports. Yeah, there are DNA reports in the file.
It could be in the medical examiner's office, but again,
Well, the problem was, I guess the way you'd look at DNA here would be, was there any other DNA besides Ellen and her fiancés?
Right.
And if there's no other DNA, or excuse me, explainable DNA, maybe they had a company, maybe they had a party, then that's DNA you'd look into.
Yeah.
So there's been no investigation. This is ridiculous to even talk about.
Yeah, Cynthia, to answer your question a little bit, just kind of add my 2 cents. The really only investigation that really happened on scene was the medical examiners. The police were there, but they were letting the medical examiners do the investigation. He's a guy named Olszewski.
That was the
And-
medical examiner, the investigator, yes.
Yeah, and the police didn't really do much until 2 days later. I mean, I don't want to like completely besmear them, right? They were there, or besmirch them. They were there. They were asking questions, all that stuff. But as far as forensics, no Philly PD forensics showed up on scene that night. It was only the
Even
ME's
look-
office for my
What is the material that you spray looking for blood?
luminol.
No one sprayed any luminol, which would probably be step one in a homicide where there's a lot of bleeding. Where
Yeah.
is all the blood?
they didn't check the trash cans.
Yeah.
Like standard police 101
they did not
was
treat-
MIA.
They didn't treat the apartment as a crime scene. Ellen's computers, her car keys, her work and both computers, and some other things,
Cell
and
phones.
Sam's computer and her cell phone were all removed by a private individual who happened to be an attorney, which is very unusual. No search warrant. He just took the stuff. And after he took the things I mentioned, but he left a very expensive engagement ring on the night table, right there in the open.
What does that tell you? I know you guys have brought that up before, but what do you
Well, it
infer
tells
about
me
that?
he took what he was looking for. He came in, he took what he was looking for. He didn't want to be there searching everything because whatever. But that diamond ring was right there on the table, and I would have taken it if I was, it was valuable.
Well, and as I understand it, that diamond was a family heirloom too, right?
Supposedly,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Ellen, that diamond heirloom was not on Ellen's hand. We also think, because of certain things that you can see in a picture, that Ellen might have been coming home and was leaving the ring.
Going home to Harrisburg.
Yes, to us, yes. I can't, it's conjecture. It's not evidence, but that's what I think.
I came to the same conclusion, just so my viewers know. And I haven't used any of my fancy buttons to show some stuff of Ellen. I mean, we might as well show the person that we're
Gavin,
talking about here.
isn't it great the way great minds work together?
Yeah, but just so my viewers know, and I've said this before, but Josh and Sandee and their team have been extremely gracious and giving and open with me, way more than I really deserve, including providing to me the crime scene photos and everything that they have, on the condition, of course, that I don't share those things. Those those photos, there are lots of things that I don't understand about that. Like Ellen was holding a like stark white, perfectly clean towel in her
Oh,
left
Bathroom.
hand from
From
the
the
bathroom.
well,
How
let's
did that get there?
describe the whole thing. Was there was a knife in her chest with a
Yeah,
white towel around it that had no blood, and her left hand was holding it.
yeah. So if I can describe this, and I don't. Okay, this is the way the scene looks. Ellen was kind of in the corner of the cabinets with her head propped up and maybe her shoulders up a little bit on the cabinets. And she was on a 45-degree angle between that right angle, right? And she had the knife in her chest. It was on this side, didn't go like straight out, but it pretty close to straight out. When I looked at it, I thought, how does that angle happen if you're doing that to yourself? I couldn't figure that out. And in her left hand is loosely open with a white towel kind of coming out of it. It's a bathroom towel. It has no blood on it. There's no, I mean, it is clean as can be. And then in her right hand, next to her right hand, are her glasses. They're not in her right hand. They're next to. They're just things that don't make sense. Like, to a trained
Well, that's
homicide
not
investigator, you'd think they'd go, "What's that towel doing there?"
The first instance, or the first thing that really set us off, is we hired Cyril Wecht. Cyril Wecht is a renowned Pennsylvania criminal forensic pathologist. I don't know what these guys,
Yeah, he's a forensic pathologist.
and he said, number one, suspicious of homicide. Now that's really not very good for me because I wanted more definitive answer. Number two, he said women don't commit suicide with knives. Go look on, one of the search engines. Look up female suicide with knife. You don't find anything. Number three, women don't, if they do use a knife, they don't stab themselves through their clothing. They pull open their shirts and stab themselves. Very dramatic. So all of these things, and then he sent us an article for the police a policeman would read in a class on forensics to differentiate a suicide from a homicide in a woman. And that really, for lack of a better term, I would say set the ball rolling, that something wasn't right. I would have liked him to be more precise instead of suspicious of homicide, but that's me. And later on, when we came back to him, he said, they asked our investigator, how come we never called him? He thought that was a definitive statement.
Oh,
But that really set the ball rolling, that this was unlikely to be a female suicide, way a woman would commit suicide. Very, very painfully. She had 20 stab wounds. I mean, if the first one didn't hurt, tell me the second, then 2 and 19 didn't hurt. So till
yeah.
20.
Well,
And
here's the thing that maybe if I can give the benefit of the doubt to the investigators, like I'm being extremely gracious here, but the benefit of the doubt, from what they could see from the way Ellen was positioned, they couldn't see 20 stab wounds. They could see a few. Like there are a couple photos where they had lifted up the shirt to see her abdomen, for example. And so I'm like being as kind and gracious as I can. That
I'll even be kinder.
okay, lay it on me.
They didn't see the stab wounds on her back till the next day with an autopsy.
That's correct. It was Dr. Osborne who was like, "Hey, wait a minute,
Yeah. Look what we got here.
all this stuff, right?" But still, even after maybe going through that mental exercise, the towel, man, the towel is so out of place. It just is wrong. So you'd think that the homicide investigators might do a little bit deeper
They didn't
investigation.
do an investigation, though, Gavin. Remember?
That's true.
Suicide. We're done.
Yeah, you think they just walked in and they're like, "Ah, suicide."
I know that there was a letter, text, reminder that Philadelphia's police were not supposed to call something a homicide unless they were sure, because they didn't want Philadelphia to become a crime city. This was a hand down from the top of the police. Okay, I'm just telling you what was there. Things we've learned, unfortunately. So they weren't
Which
looking for a homicide.
that goes against homicide 101. Like anytime there's a death, they're supposed to assume homicide until they can prove otherwise.
The only one that presumed homicide was the EMS people that came to the apartment and said, "You got a homicide up there."
Yeah, they said that to the police, right?
And to
Oh, to Philip Hanton, yeah.
yeah, they said it to
Yeah.
him, and he broke down.
Did he know Ellen?
Yes, she would bring food and stuff to him. He had a soft spot for her, you might say.
I wondered about that because that seemed like a pretty big apartment complex. It'd be very easy for somebody to just go
She
unnoticed, right?
she brought food to him and stuff like that, things like that. I was told.
Let's see. Allie Dodd asks, "What can we do to help Ellen's case?"
Get people to sign the petition, get people to reach out to Pennsylvania authorities, specifically Josh Shapiro, and spread the word and follow us. And we appreciate every
Every
one.
chance I get, when it gets around to children, I'm ready to go. I want everyone to know what we're up against, because you never know. My position is I never know who I'm going to meet, and that one person might be the key to get me through part of the justice system, or that might be the one who knows something about something I don't know about, who might have done it, or why, or somebody else's medical history or something. I don't know what I don't know, so I tell the story all the time, and maybe I'm what's known as the most boring person in the East Coast, but that's me. I never
So,
know.
just if you meet a stranger, will you talk to them about your daughter?
Yes. I think it's also catharsis for me. It makes me feel, I'm still doing something. Why not? I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of my daughter. I am not ashamed of what Sandee and I have done or didn't do.
Yeah.
We did all we could that we knew about.
I want to show some viewers some of these photos of Ellen as a little girl.
Get all those. Wow.
Guys gave me permission to do this. That little girl is maybe the cutest ever, and
Oh, look at that one. I like that one better.
all that
Daddy,
potential.
look at my dolls, Daddy.
Yeah. Was she a pretty girly girl from the very beginning?
Yes and no. She was very girly, but Ellen played softball. Ellen could hit a baseball. Ellen was the second pick in Harrisburg when we moved there to have the picks. In fact, somebody tried to tell me not to let her go to the tryouts because they would pick her, and he wanted to pick her. Ellen would go with me to football games, NFL games. When we moved to Tenafly and when we lived in New Jersey, Ellen every night would make me take her to watch the girls play softball. and she became an all-star in Tenafly.
What?
But she was an early girl. Don't kid yourself.
Well, I look every time you guys invited me out to the house late last year and gave me the honor of letting me go through old photo albums and scanning in old stuff. That's where all this comes from. You gave me permission to share that. I always,
But Gavin,
I always
go ahead,
come
Gavin.
to this case looking from the point of view of a father. I have 3 daughters. And as I'm watching Ellen grow there, I'm just imagining my own daughters at those ages. And I think that's why it
Right.
rings so personally for me and for a lot of people as we maybe can empathize from a paternal point of view.
The major insult, though, when Sandy wanted to insult her, you're just like your father. But I told you what I got around her 21st birthday. You're not always right, Daddy, but you usually are. I kept that. I have it.
She wrote it down, huh?
Uh-huh. And I
That's
was ready to use it if I had to.
Let's see. Cynthia, we didn't answer her question completely. I think she says, where are those items now? The DNA, the evidence, all that stuff.
If there is anything, the police have it.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I wonder if, like the knife, for example, would that go with the file or would that stay in an evidence room with the police?
Oh,
I
you
would
mean the
imagine
two
it'd stay with
knives?
the police. What's that?
There were 2 knives, Gavin.
There were 2 knives used according to the autopsy report, but they only recovered 1,
Correct.
right?
It should be in the evidence room, I would assume.
Yeah, I
As soon as
think
it be.
typically, Cynthia, what happens there is the evidence will be logged into an evidence room, but there will be photographs of it, which all go into a file. There are likely many copies of the file. There's probably a complete copy with the Philly PD. There's probably a complete copy with the DA's office in Philadelphia County, with the Attorney General's office, and now with the Chester County office. I doubt they're sending originals all over the place. I think there are at least 4 copies of the file at this point.
I don't know.
I reached out to Chester County, by the way. I told you guys that, right?
Right.
Got a no comment and then the thunderous sound of crickets after that. I sent some follow-ups and they haven't responded. And a couple of other people that I know in the media that I chat with have said the same thing, that they got 1 response, no comment, and they've never heard back. So I'm curious.
It might be part of the why, for all we know.
Yeah, I wonder. Let's see if let's see. Olivia Nile. That's a name that I don't recognize. This is a new viewer, I think. Maybe the towel in the left hand was used by someone to remove the diamond engagement ring. Your thoughts on
Could
that?
be. No thoughts. Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the
Oh,
engagement ring was taken off. I think like not by somebody. I think she had taken off her engagement
so
ring
do I. I
based
believe she
on
was
where it's
leaving.
placed.
I believe she was leaving and leaving the engagement ring.
And I'm trying to remember. I haven't looked at the photos for a while, but I think that engagement ring was it in the bathroom between the sinks? Is that where it was?
We haven't seen the crime scene photos, so
It was on the
I
night table.
can't confirm.
It was on the night table.
Yeah,
I
I think.
have no idea.
Yeah,
No, I
I'm
don't
not
know.
going to show any of these, but from what I remember, Olivia, the like in between the sinks in the bathroom, she was like packed her makeup bag and her toiletries and stuff like that. And before like people come at me and say, "Well, women have toiletry bags and makeup bags?" Yes, I know. I've been married for 23 years. I have 3 daughters. I totally get all of that. But to
Yeah.
me, it looked like she was packing to go. It doesn't look like it was just a little, you
Well,
know,
the stuff was on the bed.
there was stuff on the bed. Yeah.
Right. It
Yeah.
wasn't in the bathroom anymore.
So I don't think that anybody removed the diamond ring from her hand. I think that she had removed the diamond ring from her
I
hand.
think so.
Patricia Burns says she is absolutely gorgeous. He was punching well above his weight. Yes, he
Hmm.
was. That is true. What is your theory with the towel? Allie asks.
I have no idea.
Josh and Sandy are really good at not guessing. By the way, they're very good at not guessing. I think that's something that we do in the true crime as a hobby. We want to know those things and we come up with ideas. I honestly don't. I don't know either. I just know that it was out of place. It just was weird.
I can't understand why a white hand towel from a bathroom was put in her hand. That's not very thoughtful.
It's just weird. Her hand didn't look like it had been like cleaned. There wasn't any smudged anything on it. It just
No, it didn't know.
I don't know. Shaylin is asking, has Ellen's fiance kept in touch with your family in any capacity?
Initially, he did, but once he decided to move on and become engaged, which he told us, we drifted apart.
He never really kept in touch with me. He kept in touch with Sandy. He didn't call me, no.
Let's see. Yeah, that same question was asked a couple of times. Let's see. I think if you guys have any more questions, put them on there. What is going on with, like, right now you have two lawsuits going right now. One is against the city that is in appeals court, and then the other is actually specifically against people in the medical examiner's office, right? Where are we?
And police and district attorney and Jane and John Doe. Jane and John Doe mean we don't have the files from the police, and upon reviewing that, if we should find anybody, they will become part of the lawsuit.
So I think most people are aware of the first lawsuit. What is the second lawsuit?
Go ahead.
We are suing for willful misconduct to conceal a homicide. And specific individuals are named in the suit, including Jane and John Doe.
Who we don't know who they are yet.
Many of them, right? I think you named.
Well, let's just keep the suit open in case we find somebody else when we get the police files.
Yeah. And that
We
comes
don't-
from the idea that there is a conspiracy to conceal a homicide comes from the discovery in the first lawsuit. Is that correct?
It comes from the fact that there were certain discrepancies or misconduct in the proceedings that preceded the writing of the autopsy of Ellen, such as what's her name?
Being asked not to
Not
file
by
reports.
not the forensic pathologist who said that Ellen that received the wounds post-mortem was deposed by our attorneys in 2021, and she was asked when she did the examination, and she said August of 2019. Well, there's no report, and she said she was asked not to write a report. The meeting that the head of the medical examiner's office, the medical examiner did the autopsy, the police, and assistant district attorney, and we don't know who else, was a meeting that only happened one time. We asked, the medical examiner was asked that. Have you ever had a meeting like that? No. Have you had one since? No. Are there any records of that meeting? No. These are all very peculiar things. Records are kept for reasons.
Yeah. Chloe asked you, in regards to the lawsuits, do you feel like you're going to win?
Yes.
Yes. That's why they want to have the trials. We'd love to go to trial.
That's why they're postponing things.
That's why everything's
They
delayed.
don't want it to happen because
They don't want to be in court with us. They have never discussed anything based on evidence that they, meaning the city or whoever, have better evidence than we do. Never. It's not about evidence with them. It's about legal mumbo jumbo and precedents, legal precedents versus human
just
precedents.
A bunch of blah 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 blah.
Actually,
I'm embarrassed for the city personally. If you are a citizen of Philadelphia,
Well, if you're a
It is an
citizen of Philadelphia,
embarrassment.
I'm sorry.
It is an embarrassment for sure. Yeah.
If you're a citizen of Philadelphia, as our attorney said once to an investigator, you should be concerned that there's a murderer on the loose in Philadelphia, because that's the fact.
Leslie says, is there a way to hold law enforcement accountable for persuading the ME to change the findings? That is the point of the second lawsuit, right? They
Right.
they
wanted
have
to-
specifically named some of those police officers.
Individuals.
Let's see. Shaylin says, you're so incredibly strong, and I'm sorry that you've had to endure this great injustice for so long. I hope there are answers soon, and sending prayers for justice.
Thank you.
Yeah. I am sorry if this was discussed, this Karen says, because I came in late. Where does the case stand in relation to the Attorney General of Pennsylvania? I thought I saw an update a few months ago. Karen, you've hit a tickle spot for me on this one. But I'd love to hear Josh and Sandee's thoughts.
Why don't you talk?
Why don't you
Gavin?
talk about that one, Gavin?
Oh, yeah, that's probably smart. Well, he's no longer the Attorney General of the Commonwealth. By the way, I keep this near my desk. I don't know if you recognize this.
That's
That's-
the yearbook.
This is the yearbook, yeah. And usually it just falls right open to the right page there. But yeah, this is the yearbook. Man, apparently I haven't opened it up enough in the last little bit, but this is the yearbook of the senior year of our current governor of, there he is, of the Commonwealth. There he is, right there. But yeah, so your question was, where does the case stand in relation to the Attorney General of Pennsylvania? Where it stands is the Attorney General referred the case out once there was enough pressure for him to do so. It was referred out to Larry Krasner, who is an embattled district attorney in Pennsylvania or in Philadelphia, and because of a conflict of interest, he sent it off to Chester County. That is actually brings me to one of the questions that I asked the spokesperson for Ms. Ryan, DA Ryan from Chester County, is, does she feel like she has any conflicts of interest? And I didn't get any answer to that question.
She might.
I think she does. I think
The same temple that he did, the Attorney General did.
I personally believe that if Josh Shapiro recused himself because of an appearance of conflict of interest, her appearance, at least appearance of conflict of interest, is even closer than Josh Shapiro's, I think. But Sandee is wisely not saying a word.
The truth is all going to come out.
Yeah.
And that's why I take my supplements and I'm trying to take care of myself because I want to be around to witness it.
I love that. Les Luth, we talked about this a little bit, but were there any previous reports of any domestic issues between Ellen and Mr. Goldberg?
No.
Yeah. So, okay, so to go back to the lawsuits real quick, let me just finish out that thought. Where are we on lawsuit number 1?
Which is
Which is
What are you
against the city of Philadelphia and the medical examiner's office.
you time out. Let's do it this way. I'll do it.
Okay.
The appeal was heard by the judges. It'll take a number of months. I'm not going to put a number for them to write their judgment. The lawsuit against the medical examiners, plural, the assistant district attorney, plural, and detectives, plural, have not begun. But I think Joe said that he started looking for documents or something. I don't know. He started
Discovery.
his discovery. He started discovery, and that should be enough to turn their little, what should I say, tighten up a lot of little anatomy they have. How's that? I'm sorry. I'm so whatever. Graphic. Am I too graphic?
That's funny. how
Well,
are you guys feeling?
how would you feel if you got a thing for a lawsuit and then you have to worry about who's going to defend you? The city has decided to defend them, but I would rather have my attorney than the city's attorney defend me. I trust my own attorney more than I trust somebody else hiring an attorney to put me in
Yeah,
there. If you have
I wonder if any of them will break ranks and get a private attorney.
I hope so.
It'd be interesting.
We'll see.
How are you feeling? We watched the appeal oral arguments together. And actually, even before that, before the oral arguments, there was a part of the appeal that I got so excited about. I was, when Joe sent me the document, I think I had just landed in London for CrimeCon. So it was last summer. And it was when Judge Hill sent,
16
his statement or whatever, his brief to the court. That was really exciting. That made me feel, I think I shared that with you guys when I was in Harrisburg with you. That was the first time where I was like, the Greenbergs have a shot here.
He fashioned an opinion over 16 pages with all of the legal jargon and footnotes and it wasn't written last night,
Yeah.
supporting our position. And it was 16 pages long. And he gave that to the judges involved in this because he had previously turned down the city's appeal twice.
Yeah. It was amazing.
What effect that'll have, I don't know. But
well, now that you heard the oral arguments, we watched them together, and you've been able to process it. I'm sure you've talked to your family members and friends about it and so forth. How are you feeling as far as what might come out of the appeals court based on what you've seen?
Cautiously optimistic.
right, we've had too many pitfalls and blocks and roadblocks, so we're cautiously optimistic. Is well put. We think we should win every we should win every legal argument because we have evidence, the truth. And they don't talk about evidence or the truth, do they? They talk about legal mumbo jumbo.
Correct. Yeah, what the city is arguing is that we shouldn't even be in court because they don't have standing. I mean, there was another part of it too, but that was basically it. Hey, wait a minute, why are we here?
That's the big part.
Yeah. So
Sandee and I don't have standing.
they're not actually defending the actions of the city of Philadelphia.
No.
They're just saying we shouldn't be here. Let's kick it out.
Right. And we're her parents, and we're going to kick it out.
Yeah, that's something else.
Well, I'll give you an interesting thing. Did you hear at the end when the judge said that you should have some empathy for the Greenbergs?
Yeah, I
She
did.
said that doesn't mean anything to me. That was very nice, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I
We're
thought
not
that
all-
was an indication that she was friendly to your plight. But
You know what? Cautiously optimistic, Gavin.
yeah. What's going on here, guys, is the lawsuit is seeking the legal term is mandamus. What the Greenbergs are asking for the court to do is to force the medical examiner's office to change the manner of death.
Correct.
And that legal mechanism is called mandamus. I have been involved, as you guys know, with another case in another state where the family is asking the same thing and have lost. They're going to the appellate court right now, by the way, on that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read the appeal. It was strong. Really glad that they did that. But yeah, the city is like, you shouldn't have to do this. Osborne said in his deposition, yeah,
Right.
if the fact of the case were as you described them, I would not rule a suicide, right? And then Joe's like, well, here are the facts of the case.
Yeah.
And
Under oath, with video and audio.
yeah, and he could still, to this day, even though he's not an employee of the city of Philadelphia, he could
I'll change it
change.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go visit him in Florida.
I know a person who went and tried to visit him
What?
in Florida.
I'm sorry?
I know somebody who knocked on his door.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Somebody knocked on his door?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
He did.
I didn't know
Yeah. A reporter went to Florida and knocked on his door.
that. Oh, really? He must have loved that.
I can't remember the details of it. I just remember thinking, man, the chutzpah, that is awesome. I'm glad that you did that.
The first reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer,
Stephanie Farr.
she went to New York to deliver a request from the fiance, do you have anything to say?
That good
She
for
wanted to
her.
make sure she wanted to make sure that he had the opportunity to say something.
Yeah.
And she went to New York.
Yeah.
I was told. Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. So I'm glad you guys joined me. I think we've been at it like an hour, right? So we
A little over.
probably
Over
could
now.
call it right there. Unless
Anyone
there's
has a
anything
question?
else you want to add.
No. I'm going to go back to the one comment about the media. We appreciate everything the media has done for us. If it wasn't for the media, we probably wouldn't be here today. That's the way I think, and you think the same way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have been fair. I understand the constraints they have. Like TV doesn't want to do anything without a conclusion because if they have a conclusion, they're afraid of lawsuits. Everyone's afraid of lawsuits.
Yeah,
And I
that's
believe
why, guys, if you watch a Dateline or a 2020 and they're telling a story of some horrific crime, it's always after somebody has been charged. It's
right, or it's
always,
a conclusion.
yeah. It's usually after a conviction or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I admire the both of you. I think your grit is admirable. I think that you're doing right by your daughter, and I know that you don't
I
need my
hope.
approval or secret or anything like that. But I want you guys to know that I really admire you. It's
Thank
really
you, and
something
I hope
else.
other parents will fight for their children's rights like we have, and not just give up. Because we're the only ones that haven't given up so far. We got farther than anybody. That's what I've been told.
Well,
And we got to fight for you fight for your rights.
yeah,
And anybody's children who tell you to make sure you tell your children if they've been hurt by somebody, they should come and talk to you about it. Don't let it slide,
yeah.
especially if you have 3 daughters.
Oh man, if a couple other questions came in. Let's just put these in here real quick. Have the Greenbergs filed anything in civil court and been able to depose Sam and other parties related to this incident? Of course, both lawsuits are in civil court, right?
Yes.
There has not been any deposition of anybody on the Goldberg family, right?
No. No.
Yeah, it's because there have to be several dominoes to fall here. The very first domino is you got to change the manner of death, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that will come in time. A lot of people sending their love to you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep, and let's see. Karen says, "Can the photos Gavin shared of Ellen today be used to share her story on social media?" You know,
I don't understand.
the photos that I shared of her childhood, of her as a little girl.
Sure.
Okay, Sandee says yes. I'll put them up on the website, and then you guys can.
There's no reason why they shouldn't be shared. Ellen was a cute kid,
Oh my goodness,
a great daughter.
she's an adorable girl, and yeah. Anyway, every time I look at those photos, I just see all the potential, man. I just see all of it.
Look at that little face.
Look at that face. Just an adorable girl. All right, with that, guys, Josh and Sandee, stick around for a second. I'm going to close up the webcast, and then if you can stick around for just a second, I just want a couple minutes with you, if that's okay. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Thank you for joining. Thank you for supporting. Please go and sign the petition if you haven't. Please go to the Justice for Ellen Facebook page, go to the Twitter account, go to Instagram, follow all the social media, and give as much love and support to the Greenbergs as you can. With that, I will bid you adieu, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to my channel. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below.
There's no